In the past 20 years of doing business, as you can imagine, I have run in and seen pretty much any big and small problem that you can imagine. Today, I want to talk to you about 5 that may seem minor that can have a major impact on your small business. And it can be just sitting right under your nose and you not even know it. So the first one, and let's get right into it, is your phone number. Now, you might be thinking, Charlie, that's a simple one. What in the world? It's my phone number is my phone number, right? Not exactly. Recently, I had a client who was using their cell phone number. And what happens is that in the beginning, if you're a side hustler, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, or really small micro business, that might be just fine. But when you hit volume, when you start marketing for real, like multi-channel marketing or advertising and things like that, where people will be clicking a Google ad and calling your phone number, your cell phone may become a problem at that point. Just think about how you use your cell phone. At least I'll talk about how I use my cell phone. Being a CEO of a company, I screen my calls. I send people to voicemail, right? I'm not always answering. I'm busy. I'm in a meeting. I'm not answering my cell phone. Only my wife and my kids and things like that can get through in the case of an emergency. I use focus modes on my cell phone so that it just shuts everything down so I don't get bothered at all, right? You may not realize it, but you could be getting calls that you're avoiding that are opportunities and you're missing them. This actually has just happened recently with a law firm. The law firm went through a merger, a partnership merger. Their volume has increased. The lawyer, when they were a solo practitioner, was using their cell phone just fine. Now they've got staff and, a partner and all this kind of stuff, and they're in court and all these different things. And they had ads going to their cell phone, and they're like, and I look at the call report and I see, 30 seconds, 47 seconds, 20 seconds, all that. And I listen to actually the recordings, and it's just leads listening to the phone ring and nothing happening, right? Click, going to voicemail, things like that. Nobody's there to answer the phone. So avoid that. Another thing is Google Voice. A lot of people use these, pass-through phone numbers and stuff. And a lot of the times you're depending on Google Voice to actually forward. But what that does is that it puts time between when the caller calls and the time it actually gets forwarded to the number you want it to go to. That can also become a potential problem. Now, problem number 2 is somewhat related to the phones, and that's your intake process, right? So are you just answering the phone willy-nilly? I had a client who would answer the phone, attorney name, like that, and the person that's calling is calling an actual law firm. That they're not getting a branded "thanks for calling XYZ law firm, how can we help you," right? They're not getting any of that. How you intake and process calls can be a real big problem. If you don't have an intake process as part of your sales process, then your actual business is broken. You should be listening to that caller's problem, but immediately once you've captured that problem and you've given them time to talk first, you should be collecting their name, their phone number, their email address, the same as you would on a website contact form. Even if y'all don't do business right then, you should be getting them into your CRM system. They were somebody that came to you at one point that you could then nurture down the line. Your intake process is not just about closing a sale. It's also about building a list. So start looking at how you are prepared to respond when you get a phone call. Are you prepared to do all of those things and keep it consistent? Is everybody inside of your organization trained to keep that consistent? Do you have a dedicated phone number, going back to the phone number problem, with a dedicated person who that's their job to manage that for your company? Problem number 3 that I want to talk to you about is somewhat controversial, and there's so many people with different opinions on this, but I can tell you right now, I'm going to go back to talking about sales process again. So many of my clients and other people, competitors, and everything I've seen over the past 20 years, they want to draw blood with their form on their website. They want every single detail, war and freaking peace, multi-page forms, letting someone who may just be, where they are in their journey might just be discovery. Like you don't know where they are yet. You don't know how informed about your solution they are. You don't know any of that crap. And the first thing you need to do is get their foot in the door. And oftentimes, one of the first things I fix is that. I'm like, and I will tell a client, this form is great. I'm not saying get rid of this form. I'm saying put it behind this form. Put it further down in the process. Get them in the door. Schedule the appointment. Qualify them. If they're qualified, don't use that form as the qualification. Have a conversation with them, right? Now, what I'm talking about here is only applicable, I know, to certain types of services and businesses. Right? If you're selling products, if you're, you have just schedule an appointment or something like that, then that's understandable. But if you've got a long sales cycle, high ticket, high cost thing you require in your onboarding, like basically, and that's a good point, like people are using their lead forms as onboarding forms. And onboarding is a completely separate process from your sales process. You want to get them in the door quickly, get the amount of information you need to qualify them and have a conversation about their problem and even see if you can even solve it, then move them into an onboarding survey type form where you then collect all the information. Now, if you're using a CRM system and you're like, Charlie, I want to have all this information on the profile. Okay, that's great. The CRM system can have the initial lead form. The later down survey form that collects all the information can just append their record, right? So it's not like you won't eventually merge all that data or have to have some data entry problem lurking in the future. I would definitely challenge you to, if you're having problems with people, traffic coming to your website, but all your people will call you on your website, but nobody's using your form. Your form might be too long. So you might want to consider actually getting on a whiteboard and thinking more about intake. Just like on the phone system intake process, your form on your website is part of that intake process. Your intake process may be broken. And so make it easy and simple. Everything, I did a video last week about simplifying selling with simple tools, simple visuals, simple implementation. Your intake process should be simple too. Removing friction from your intake process is probably one of the most impactful things that you can do for your small business, and it could be hurting your lead flow and your pipeline development right now. All right, number 4. This one's a doozy, and it's so obvious to you. You can be like, sure, Charlie, yeah, bad reviews, right? I can tell you right now that out-marketing a bad review is quite difficult. People are crazy, okay? You can't keep everybody happy, right? Like, you're not going to satisfy everybody. It doesn't matter. You roll out the red carpet for them. You give them white glove service. You do everything right, and they will still bitch at the end. People are people, right? What can you say? You can't avoid it. It's going to happen. And the only thing that you can do is focus on what you can control, right? Now, I can tell you that if you're very small and you're servicing few clients and things like that, combating a negative review problem is not as harsh as it could be. But I work with some big companies, 8-figure type companies that are serving tons and tons of clients with many different locations. And I can tell you the volume, if you get what you want out of business, right? Like if you have these big aspirations and goals, just know that is coming down the line, right? The negative reviews in volume, when that starts happening, holy moly, right? That is a whole other beast that you don't want to have to deal with, right? I will say what I'm going to say right now is with a grain of salt as well, is that review gating, people are getting hip that clients or companies are only selecting the few that they know will give them a good positive review. This is why I think that peer recommendations and online groups and that are becoming more impactful than actual reviews and things. So there is that aspect of buyer mentality and all to consider. But regardless, if someone's doing research and they're like looking for local ENT doctor or something like that, and all they see is like 1 star, 1 star, 1 star, that's going to suck for you. That's going to kill your business, right? And I've worked with some of these companies, and so I'm going to share a few things that you can do, right? So obviously, and you may already know this, but like especially with Google, you can actually contest a review. You can submit it and say, hey, and we've done this with law firms and stuff like this, and we don't even know who this person is, and that's happened. Like, we don't know whether a competitor did it on purpose or something, but they'll leave a negative review, and we're like, we don't have this person in our system. We've never even serviced this person. Maybe they got our law firm mixed up with another one, whatever. And so you can contest a review. The other thing that you can do is respond and leave it up to public opinion. Now, I have a general rule that I tell all clients about this, right? My general rule for responding to a negative review that you're not going to contest is to respond once in the most Switzerland neutral way that you possibly can. You are just bringing receipts. You just bring your receipts and your facts. And this is what happened. We tried to do this, and even offer, extend an additional, I know you probably already did, extend right there in that comment an additional olive branch to say, hey, let's get this thing back. Maybe I can get you to change that review down the line, right? Do something like that. Now, the emergency break glass option, especially if you got negative reviews coming in at volume, is to then hire a company that specializes in managing negative reviews and stuff. And there are some out there, and I've had clients hire them. Now, I've also had clients who are combating negative reviews who have started building incentive programs for people to leave positive reviews so that they can avalanche over, bring their star ratings up with more positive reviews to drown out the noise, so to speak. I got one client that has come up with Yeti bottles, Yeti water bottles that are branded, and like you get a free Yeti bottle if you do this, that sort of thing. And they have started to get traction on that. And so negative reviews and things like that, you already know this, right? I know you know this, but are you just, you see the negative review, you grumble, and you just move on with your life, or are you addressing it? Right? So address it and be mindful that people can leave you reviews everywhere, not just in the place I personally, just for SEO purposes and stuff, try and tell clients, really focus on one place to leave reviews, specifically Google reviews for impact and SEO and things like that. I know that you can get them on Yelp and Facebook and stuff, but I wouldn't recommend that. I would just say we're going to focus on one platform. If we get a review somewhere else, and we do, but we want to have a concentrated focus. That way the good can outpace the bad. All right, so the fifth problem or thing to avoid in a small business is strategy, heady kind of thing, right? And I think I've talked about this in a previous video, but I see it so much it's worth mentioning, and it does negatively impact your business. And that is focusing on your competitors and not your buyers. All the time that you could spend like looking at what such and such is doing over here and funnel hacking them, logging into their webinar funnel and getting emails back and seeing how they're doing things and that sort of stuff. A lot of assumptions can be made about how successful and what's happening over at a competitor's space, right? But everything that you want in your life is actually from your buyers, not your competitors. Right? Everything you want for your business, for your employees, for your lifestyle at home, all of that comes from your buyers. It does not come from your competitors. Okay? So all the time that you're looking at your competitors, and could be spent doing what I'm doing right now, creating a YouTube video. You could be creating resources for your buyers. You could be surveying your buyers. You could be getting questions from your buyers that you can use in content. You could be expanding out your sales funnels. You could be creating new offers for your buyers based off of their inquiries. You could be creating packages of multiple offers to solve a complete solution versus a piecemeal solution. You could do all these different things for your buyers with your time versus looking at competitors. If you're constantly looking, if you got some competitor, sorry, I'm dinging over here with my thing. I forgot to put on my do not disturb, and I'm not going to edit this out. I'm just rolling with it, right? So basically, what I'm going to tell you is that focus on your buyer. Ask them the right questions. If you're getting an itchy finger to look at a competitor, get in your CRM, send that person an email that you hadn't seen or heard from in a while. How are they doing, right? Spend your time focused on your buyer, getting information back from your buyer, getting their experiences, things like that. Figure out how you can, and it seems like an obvious thing, right? But most people aren't doing it. You get the buyer, you service the buyer, and it's like on to the next buyer, on to the next buyer, and you're not actually the place where, you know, your actual life is coming from, right? Your life is coming from your buyers, and you're on to the next meal, on to the next meal, on to the next meal, and you're not actually addressing your buyers. So I hope I beat that down so bad. I'll probably beat it down more and more as I do more videos. So figure out ways to go deep with your buyers, not wide with the next meals and your competitors. All right. So to recap, get your phone number on lock, people. Okay. Make sure you got a good phone number. Improve your intake process and minimize it. Make it frictionless. Keep it simple. And stretch out your sales process to make sure you're going to be working with the right folks. And if you got a super long form, move that into your onboarding process. You see how I'm starting to break things out for your small business a little bit more? Where if you need to tweak things, you know, if you got it all squished and sandwiched into one vehicle, when it should be an intake, sales, and onboarding process, but all of that's together, you can't really optimize effectively either. So stretch that out. Monitor and improve, combat, answer negative reviews. Don't just leave them there. Don't get all gruffy and about your negative reviews. Do something about them, right? And then lastly, like I just mentioned, focus on your buyer. All right. So you're watching a YouTube video right now. If you've made it this far, you're watching a YouTube video to solve a problem, right? So you can join me every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in a live workshop over Zoom. You can do that by joining my free community, Small Business Society. It's on School. You can find the link in the description. You can find the link on my YouTube channel profile. I'd love to have you there. As a bonus, new members, I'm right now developing a free course that's inside of the Start Here course called 5 Ways in 5 Days to Boost Your Small Business Sales. And all new members will get that free course when they sign up. I am currently in development of that course and hope to be publishing it by next week. So please find the link in my description and subscribe to this video if you can. And then also, lastly, somewhere on the screen around here is last week's video, which talks about simplifying your sales process. And if you are looking at your sales process, wanting to optimize it, wanting to improve your conversions and things like that, you may not get down to the simplification that I have, like you want to be a little bit more robust and everything like that. You could still tweak it and see what fat can you trim from it. So check out that video, and thank you for watching, and I hope you got something out of this, and I'll see you in the next one.